to my channel. In this video I'm going to explain about the encapsulation. In my previous video I explained about the abstraction. So this encapsulation is also the one of the important concept in the OOPS. So if anyone are coming without watching my previous video, which is abstraction, so please go and watch that video and come to this video so that you can understand this encapsulation more clearly. Okay, now let's start. So what is encapsulation? It is the one of the fundamental concept in the OOPS. So this encapsulation is also the one of the important concept in the OOPS. So where I'm explaining this inheritance, abstraction, I explained all the types of the inheritance and how it will be working and with the real-time examples and the abstraction also. So now let's understand what is the encapsulation and how to use encapsulation practically with the real-time examples. Okay, it describes the idea of wrapping the data and the methods of the data that work on data within the one unit. Means what is the encapsule? So it's like a encapsulator, like where we'll be wrapping the data and the methods of that particular data, like a variables and the methods in a single unit. To see simply, the variables and the methods are wrapping in the single unit is said to be an encapsulation. Okay, so this is a diagram for you so that you can understand more clearly. Yeah, so this is the diagram. So let's take a class. So in the class we'll be having some members and the variables. So this whole the members and the variables in the particular class is known as encapsule. So one encapsular will be having the methods and the variables. So this is known as the encapsulation. Okay, now so this puts restriction on accessing the variables. So we'll be having some restrictions like access modifiers, or we can say access specifiers like public, private and the protected. I think you know this public, protected and private, which you have learned in the Java. So here also we'll be using this access specifiers, but we'll be having some difference. So let's understand that access modifiers also. So this is a thing which will be having some restrictions to use these things also, like public means everyone can access, private and protected means only the particular class can access. So we'll have something about this access modifiers. I will be explaining you, don't worry. Yeah, now so this method directly and can prevent the accidental modifications of data. And to prevent accidental change, an object's variable can only be changed by an object's method. Those types of variables are known as private variables. So before going further, you have to understand about this access modifiers, which is public, private and protected, and what are they and how to use that access modifiers practically so that you can understand this encapsulation more clearly. So first I will be explaining you what is this access modifiers. So these access modifiers are nothing but like public, private and protected. So this can be arranged in Java and C++ if you have learned that programming languages. So this similarly in the Python also we have this access modifiers, which is public, private and the protected. So now let's understand what is the public and when we have to use the public. So generally what is the public means everyone. So public means everyone can access the methods and the variables which are there. So means we have a particular, let's take an real-time example of animal. So animal is a class name. Let's consider the animal is a class name and we'll be having some variables and the methods. So what are the variables generally? The variables are nothing but the attributes. Okay, the methods are nothing but the actions, the what the variables are doing. Yes or no? Let's take the class name as animal, and what will be the variables or what will be the attributes of that particular animal. So it will be having the eyes, legs, ears. Okay, next what will be having tail, nose. This all are nothing but the variables. Means simply we can say it's a attributes. And what are the methods? Methods are nothing but the actions which the attributes will be performing. So like what are the methods? What is the actions of that particular class which is the animal? Like eating, walking, okay, like seeing, smelling. So these all are the actions which the animal will do. So that is known as a method. So the combination of these attributes and the actions are known as encapsulation. The methods and the variables will be capsuled into the one unit, so which is known as encapsulation. So now let's come to this public. So what is the public? Public means everyone can be use this variables and the methods. So if we use the particular variable or the method in the public. We can use everywhere. We can use a particular method or the variable which we have declared in the public. We can use anywhere. Yes or no? So by default, we don't have any explicitly like keyword like public. Like like we'll be using in the Java and the C++. We don't have any explicit keyword like public. So default, if we'll not mention public, the default we can say it's a public variable and the public method. Okay. So you know what is a public? Everyone can access. Now what is a private? Private means what? What is the difference between the private and what is the difference between the protected? So look at here. Private means only within the class. Only the within the class only can be accessible. Means if you have an animal class, only the animal class can be accessed. So the variables and the methods which are there in the particular animal class, only the animal class can only access the variables and the methods. Other class cannot access the particular variables and methods which are there in the animal class. And even if it is derived, if it has a child class of that animal, suppose we have a cat or a dog, this is the child of the animal. Even the cat and dog class also cannot access the private variables and the methods. Okay, remember, don't get confusion between the private and the protected. Private means only within the class. Even though if it is derived also, we cannot use a particular methods and the variables which are used in the private. But protected is opposite to the private. Protected is nothing but we can use the particular variables and the methods within the class, and also in the subclass, means which is a derived class. The children of the particular class can also be accessible. If we declare the particular variable and the method in the protected, we can use that variables and the methods in the other class also if it is inherited, if it is a derived class from the particular class. So I think you got a basic clarity about public, protected and the private. Now I will be explaining you practically so that you can understand more clearly. Okay, before going to the encapsulation, you have to understand about this access modifier to understand more about the encapsulation. So that I am explaining this access modifiers. Okay, now let's start what is the access modifier practically with the real-time example, which is animal, cat, dog, this thing. So I will be explaining you about this access modifier with the simple example so that you can understand more clearly. Don't get any confusion. Let's start practically how to use this access modifier. Okay, now let's take the class name as S1. S1. Yeah. Now let's take constructor which is def, and you know this thing init function. Let's take the self and let's take the two attributes, two parameters. Let's take A and the B. Now let's consider this A is a private variable and B is a protected variable. Okay. Now how to represent the private variables and the protected variables? Private variables are represented by two underscores and protected variable is represented with a single underscore. Let's see. Yeah. Self dot private will be represented with the two underscores. This is the two underscores and the private variable is A. Let's consider the private variable is A. Let's take the value of A is, let's take a 5. Now let's consider the protective variable which is a B. B will be represented with a single underscore which is a B, that is equals to, let's consider which is 10, and let's take the public variable also so that you can understand. Let's take the one more variable which is C, and public variable does not have any explicit keyword, just we have a default thing which is self dot simply C equals to, let's take the default variable which is public is known as a 15. So this is the representation of public, private and protected variables. So double underscore means it is considered as private variable, single underscore means it is considered as protected, and if we not specify double underscore or single underscore, it's a default variable which is the public. Yes or no? This is the thing. Means protected means what? Protected is nothing but the B is nothing but the protected. Means we can use within the class and in the derived class also. Whereas private can be used within the class only. If it is derived also, we cannot use that E in the derived class. Okay, now let's consider the derived class so that you can understand. So let's take one more class, which is S2, and in this we'll take the S1. Now this S1 will be considered as a S1 is considered as a parent and S2 is considered as a children. Means it is a derived class, or we can say parent class. Now in this, let's take the normal method, which is def, and let's take the out, and in this let's take the simple self. Okay, this is a simple this thing. Now let's try to print double underscore A, single underscore A, and the C. So double underscore A is nothing but the private. Means this thing we cannot access in a other class. But single underscore B is a protected. Means we can use within the class and we can use in the derived class also. Let's try to print this first. This single underscore B. So we have to use the self also. Self dot single underscore B. Now it is okay. Now let's create the object creation for this S2, because we have to create the object creation for the child class only. Yes or no? Yeah. Now let's take the object creation. Let's obj equals to the S2. And what are the parameters over here? Let's display the output as like 10, 11, 12. Okay. Now let's try to print this out. out out function, which is method. Yeah. Now let's see what will be the output. See 10. So we are getting the 10. Because the B value we have explicitly specified with the 10 variable. So we are getting the 10. Why? B is nothing but the protected. Means we can access this thing within the class and we can use that thing in the subclass also. Means the child class of that S1, which is S2. Now let's try to access the public also. So even the public also we can access, because the public is accessible for everywhere, not only the class and the derived class. We can use in the separate class also. Let's use in the default class, like let's consider this and one more class as S3, and without specifying anything, just simply we'll try to use the def out 1. In this we'll use self, and now let's try to print this self dot B. Sorry, it's B. See here, let's take the B underscore B. Now we have to create the object creation for the S3 also. No, yeah, let's copy this thing only. Yeah, let's take the S3. Okay. Yeah, now let's try to see what will be the output. Look at here, we can access protected and the public variables over here outside the class also. So now let's see, let's access the private variable. Now let's try. So private variable is A. Now let's try what will be the output. Let's remove this thing also. Yeah, now let's try. Yeah, we are getting the error. What is the error over here? S2 attribute has no attribute. S2, the S2 class does not have the attribute which is A. It's in. So this A attribute does not there in this S2. Means what? The private variables can be accessible only within the class. Outside the class also it cannot be accessed. Even if it is a derived class also, it cannot be accessible. Only it is accessible within the class only. Yes or no? So this is the difference between the public, private and the protected. This is a small example so that you can understand the differentiate. You can differentiate between the public, private and the protected. Okay, that's it for this video. In my next video, I will be explaining you more about this public, private and protected so that you can understand more external points. So this is the basic example for about this public, private, and protected. I think you understood the what is public and how the public can be useful, and what is a protected and how it can be useful, and how we'll be using the private also. So now I think you are in the stage where you can differentiate between these three. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let's meet in the next video with a good example of this access modifier.